Hello there, Anchor community. My name is Tiffany Bluhm, and I am so excited to spend some time with you this morning and talk about week 4 of rebuilding. We've been in this Nehemiah series. We're gleaning, we're learning, we're leaning in, and today will be no different. And as we peek into chapter 4 of Nehemiah, I was kind of inspired as we saw him rebuild with resilience, and it reminded me of the one, the only, NC grad, OG Space Jam money collector, Chicago Bulls superstar, Michael Jordan. Hear me out. You might be thinking, Tiffany, Michael Jordan is not the most relatable person that I can think of in my life. But you want to know what? As many of us got that HBO Max free 30-day pass just to watch The Last Dance, we discovered that MJ was going through a lot. He had that Bulls fame, that $100 million contract with Nike just to use his name on some shoes. But behind the scenes, this man had his marriage on the rocks. His dad was murdered and papers accused him of being the reason why. He had a lot on his plate, a lot to bear, and leading this team to 3 championships, and then he left it all to go play baseball. Everything he knew was gone. His support system gone, and he didn't know where or why or how. And then he goes back to the Bulls in 96, 97, 98, and what happens? This incredible championship. His leadership, he pushed forward. Everybody said he couldn't do it. Everybody said that it was just a show, that he could never, ever, ever do what he had already done. But he came back a little more humble. According to The Last Dance. He came back ready to lead, ready to play his critical role, and he did what he set out to do. And the haters were going on hating, but he did what he set out to do. So as we dive into chapter 4 this morning, I had this same excitement when I think of what does it take to step up to opposition? What does it take? It takes resilience. We are going to talk about the rebuilder's resilience. Let's dive in to chapter 4. I just want to be real upfront. It gets real dicey, so just strap on your seatbelts. So we see that Nehemiah is convinced the Jewish people, his friends and family, to join with him in rebuilding this wall. But man, opposition came, and it came swift and it came hard. Here we go. When Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he said, "What are those feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble, burned as they are?" Tobiah the Ammonite, who was at his side, said, "What they are building, even a fox climbing up on it would break down their wall of stones." That's a sick burn. Verse 4, "Hear us, our God, for we are despised. Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder in a land of captivity. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders." So we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their heart. So good. Verse 7, "But when Sanballat, Tobiah, and the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the people of Ashdod heard that the repairs to Jerusalem's wall had gone ahead and that the gaps were being closed," did you hear that? The gaps were being closed. They were continuing that work. They were very angry. They all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble against it. But we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to meet this threat. Meanwhile, the people in Judah said the strength of the laborers is given out, and there's so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall. I hear some discouragement there. Verse 11, also our enemy said, before they know it or see us, we will be right there among them and will kill them and put an end to the work. Then the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, wherever you turn, they will attack us. Therefore, I stationed some of the people behind the lowest points of the wall at the exposed places, posting them by families with their swords, spears, and bows. After I looked things over, I stood up and I said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes. When our enemies heard that we were aware of their plot and that God had frustrated it, we all returned to the wall, each to our own work. From that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. The officers posted themselves behind all the people of Judah who were building the wall. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand, and it held a weapon, and in the other, each of the builders wore a sword at his side as he worked. Now, I wish I had a real spear and a shovel in my hand. I think that'd be a really great prop right now, but you want to know what? I need you to picture that. I need you to picture your hands full when you're trying to do a good work. But the man who sounded the trumpet stayed with me, and then I said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, the work is extensive and spread out, and we are widely separated from each other along this wall. Wherever you hear the sound of the trumpet, join us there. Our God will fight for us. So we continued the work, with half the men holding spears from the first light of dawn till the stars came out. And that time, I also said to the people, have every man and his helper stay inside Jerusalem at night, so they can serve us as guards by night and as workers by day. Neither I nor my brothers, nor my men, nor the guards with me took off our clothes. Each had his weapon, even when they went for water. So, what do we see here? Right out the gate, beginning of chapter 4, we see from the opposition an attack on ability. We see that the Jewish people were working with all their might. They were doing the darn thing. And what comes up? You can't do that. Who do you think you are? You know, I think for many of us, we might be grown, we might have seen some things, and we are able. But this pandemic has made us question, can I really do this? Can I really show up at my job? Can I really show up for my family? Can I pay my bills? Maybe we're harboring a lie that was spoken over us from our family of origin or when we were younger, and the opposition no longer has a face, it just has a feeling. We're in it in the here and now, and it's so hard to move forward because the opposition had started externally, but now it took up residence internally, and it feels impossible to move forward. And then the attack on accomplishment. Now, when you come at you and you're trying to build a wall and they say not a fox will break it down, come on. They could at least use a boar or a horse or a donkey or something. I mean, to say even a fox, what is that, 23 pounds? Man, to say, look what you've done. What is this, a kindergartner doing this out here? I can't even imagine after they'd worked so hard and sacrificed so much. And remember, they've been at this for almost 100 years trying to rebuild this place. So to have opposition come along and say, really? Now, a little backstory on me. I was abandoned at birth. And that orphan mentality is hard to break even in adulthood. Although my identity has been rooted in the person of Jesus, I gotta be honest with you, it's hard to shake that attack on accomplishment, on ability, because you wonder man, really, am I good enough if I was left? Now, you don't have to have an orphan story to feel this attack, right? No matter what your experience, you know those moments when you feel like you weren't enough. And when then opposition reminds you, yeah, I was right about myself. It can feel so defeating. But what Nehemiah does next is a gift and instruction and wisdom that we can glean from this ancient book for us here and today. What does he do? He prays. We see Nehemiah again and again practice a rhythm of prayer. You know, I've always said that worry, which I believe could really be the opposite of prayer, it has this way of feeling oddly productive because it takes so much emotional toll on us. It takes so much out of us that you think, I'm moving towards something somewhere, but worry, it really just taxes your mind, your heart, your soul, your strength. And with that same allotted emotional labor of your mind, your heart, your soul, and your strength, you could take it to the Lord in prayer. You could take it to him. And instead of worry, you could go before the Lord and lay it out. We see by his tone, he's honest. He doesn't hold back. He wishes for their demise of his opposition. He really goes for it. He knows that he can be his truest self. He knows he doesn't have to clean up how he feels, his words, his actions. He just lays it bare before the Lord. I love that that was his first move, was to go to prayer. Not to go whine, not to form a coalition of how are we going to solve this problem. He went and saw the ultimate rebuilder. He sought out his divine way, his whisper, his leading, and we can do that very same thing. Oh, he really went for it. You know who I love that speaks on prayer in her book, A Hiding Place, is Corrie ten Boom. Now, just a refresher, Corrie ten Boom, alongside her family during World War II, hid Jewish families during the Holocaust. And they were found out, they were captured. And we see of her journey in her book, A Hiding Place. And she says this, what wings are to a bird and sails to a ship, so is prayer to the soul. What is she saying here? She's saying it's necessary. You can't function without it. Wings to a bird? What's a bird without wings? A chicken, I guess. Chickens don't fly, I guess. But you get my point, right? It is necessary to thrive, to simply exist as you should be, requires prayer. And then what do we see after that? Right after that time of prayer, they continued the work. So what do we see? We see opposition, prayer, and then it's almost as if they doubled down. It gave them this resolve. The opposition made them work harder. Again, when I watched The Last Dance, I saw MJ take all that opposition and he took it to the court and he got them Bulls that championship. Now, I don't know about you. I'm not going to that 3-on-3 Spokane tournament. I don't have any aspirations for a NBA championship. But like you, I do have aspirations to show up for my own life, my one beautiful life, even in the middle of opposition, even in the middle of when it feels like too much, when I know that I'm a rebuilder, when I know that I am called by God in this place, in this time in history, just like you, to rebuild. I can continue the good work. What? With all my heart, with all their heart. Another translation says they worked with enthusiasm. And another says they had a mind to work. That's my favorite, by the way. They had a mind to work. And I'm sure that brings up a Hamilton reference, which is good because maybe that's when you think of Hamilton, you'll think of continuing the good work. But this heart, it was the center of their being. It was the center of their operating system, the center of their resolve. Because if they didn't have that, if they didn't decide, if they didn't put their mind, if they weren't going to work with all of their enthusiasm, what were they going to do? Just be bound by the opposition? Life is setback, advance, truly, for all of us, at all times, no matter where you live. We can kind of count on that. So to have that resolve down in your belly, your heart, your mind, that's what we can do. So Nehemiah 4:7-12, we see this opposition again. They're here on the front, on the building site. Oh, they're going to come after us and kill us? And we're out here with our families? We just want a sense of home. We just want to rebuild what's been broken. I know many of us, we're trying to set a table that wasn't set for us. Emotionally, relationally, with our families, financially. All we are trying to do is move forward. And then when we finally have that resolve, we're continuing, the taunts are coming, and it just makes us want it all the more. Kind of stimulates this desire. And then we're thinking, whoa, this opposition is really doubling down. It's coming back like that boomerang. And it feels like this is how life is always going to be. But I think when we understand that life really is a mix of setback and advance, that 1-2 step, then I think we can understand our role. We can continue the work, and at the same time, we can prepare for opposition with a shovel and a spear. The shovel, get to work. Do what you're called to do. And the spear, guard the work. Prepare for that opposition because it is coming. I am a very happy person by nature. I'm very glass half full. And my husband is always so surprised. He's like, you're so surprised when things are hard. And I'm reminded as I mature in Christ, I need to be prepared. This is a mark of maturity for us, whether you're glass half full or glass half empty. This is a mark of following Jesus. To be prepared. That life will not be easy. That is not what we're guaranteed. Opposition will come, whether it's external, whether it's internal. It's on its way. As Nehemiah and the Jewish people, they wanted to build up this fortified territory. We see how at first, the opposition, the opposing governors, they really kind of thought it was a joke. They were like, oh, who do you think you are? But when progress was made, that's when the opposition was like, we're going to kill you. We're going to take you out. You will not advance. You will not establish a kingdom where it is based on communal renewal. What does it taking back the land mean for Nehemiah? It means going back to his covenant. It means going back to what they were supposed to do in the first place, which is to commune with God and love others. That was under siege. And in this day, in this time, without sounding too angsty or that everybody's coming for us, dare I say the kingdom needs us. You know, God is doing fine by himself, but we are invited to join this movement of rebuilding. Man, what a joy. What an honor for each of us to play our parts as we saw the mommies and the daddies and the aunties and the uncles and even the kids were involved to rebuild that wall. So are we with our unique gifts, with our unique purpose and design. With the way we think, with the way we operate, we can build the kingdom. We can see the kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. In Tacoma, in the greater South Sound, as it is in heaven. I lived in Tacoma, got to do some quick math, standby, about 13 years. I have like a teenager. A teenager who just went through puberty. A teenager who wants to be and have growth and wants to be all that they've been spoken over and dreamed of. And here I am, wishing and hoping and waiting that we'll continue to see rebuilding. When I first moved to Tacoma, I had a job offer in Portland and a job offer in Tacoma, and I felt so torn. And I went before the Lord, and I said, where would you have me? And I had interviews at both. And at the end of the day, he said, come join me in what I'm already doing in Tacoma. There are people here on the ground who've been on the ground. Could you come join them? Could you bring all of who you are, all of your lack, all of your advantages, and come plant yourself and root yourself? Can I tell you something? I didn't have family here. I didn't know one person who lived in Tacoma. But growing up, I would pass through it on my way to Seattle. And I remember in the car, I would turn off the music, my Walkman. I was listening to Sixpence None the Richer. I would turn it off and I would just watch Tacoma. I don't know why. I did that since I was a little kid. I would etch 253 in notebooks in middle school. I'm dead serious. I just don't know why. I knew no one. I'd never even been there. I just drove through. Never even gotten gas in Tacoma. But something always called me. Something always beckoned me that maybe everything I was meant for and everything I could rebuild and everything I could contribute was here, if only I'd say yes. Now, I don't know why you're in Tacoma. I don't know why you're in the South Sound. Maybe you're military. Maybe you work for Amazon. It is cheaper to live down here. I don't know why you're here, but God does. The ultimate rebuilder knows why you're here, in this season is sacred and holy, and one where he wants to do something so wonderful in your life. One where he wants to draw you closer to him as he rebuilds. And you know what I love about the story in Nehemiah? We see his personal maturity blossom as he leads others, as he plays his critical role. We really see the maturity of the Jewish people as they continue to rebuild despite the very serious opposition in their life. Recently, I was really taken by a story at the Olympics, and perhaps you saw this story as well. It was a young Syrian girl, Yursa Mardini, and when she was just, 16, she was escaping her home country that she loved, that she didn't want to leave because of the war. And her family were escaping on this dinghy that was really meant for vacation and only held 7 people, but there was 20 people on it. The motor stopped working right out the gate, but they were desperate to escape the war. And this teenage girl saw that the motor ran out. So what did she do? She told her sister, get out, jump, let's push this, let's kick. They kicked. She became the motor, her and her sister. Woo, just thinking about this. And they kicked all the way to Greece. And they didn't stop until they got there. Why? Because they believed in something better. They wanted to rebuild their lives from the brokenness. They believed that that was their birthright. It is your birthright as a citizen of heaven to rebuild. So this young girl, she gets there, and she clearly has a gift to swim, and she begins to train. And the very next year, she was at the 2016 Rio Olympics as part of the refugee team. And then again, just a few weeks ago, she was part of the 2020 refugee team. This resolve, this commitment to rebuild what's been broken, led her to the world stage. And she's used it wisely, talking about the plight of refugees and what they're going through and helping people understand the war and what it would take to rebuild and the value of humanity. As we lean into our God-given calling, we understand so crystal clear the value of what God is building and the value of what God is doing in this place, in this time. You know, this isn't easy. I understand that. I might share stories about Michael Jordan or an Olympic swimmer, and you're thinking, that's not me. I'm not an athlete. I haven't overcome something so great that I feel like I have something to show for it. However small or large the burden might be in front of you, know that God is there. He sent his son for you. He sent his son so you could know abundant life, so you could live a vibrant life. One that's beyond a small imagination, but one that imagines rebuilding something that's been broken and lost. It takes quite an imagination, doesn't it? To see past your aches and your pains and your hurts, the external and internal opposition. But when we do, when we give into this rhythm of work and prayer, isn't that beautiful that that's what resilience is? Resilience is a rhythm of work and prayer. Resilience isn't getting up at 5 a.m. and running 5 laps and reading self-help books. Resilience isn't, thinking you are financially set and you never have something hard come in your life. That's not resilience. Resilience is a rhythm, one that's laid out for us. Work and prayer and work and prayer and work and prayer. And that is perfect preparation for the opposition. Let's close in prayer. Jesus, we thank you. We thank you that you didn't set us here to fail. The opposition will not win. It won't. Why? Because we're following you. We're following you, and you're leading us, and you're calling us. And we can come to you with our honest prayers as Nehemiah did. We can come to you with everything we feel we lack when someone attacks our ability or accomplishment. We can come to you, and you'll lead us, and you'll guide us. You'll comfort us. You'll advocate for us. You'll remind us of who we are, who we belong to, and what we're rebuilding. Thank you, Jesus, for who you are. In your name.